Boom. And we are live.
Nice. Yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm going to send this out in the group.
Welcome, everyone. Hey, Gareth. How you doing? We need an intro, which is coming soon. A little intro music to get this going for live streams. It's just too quiet. I didn't find any good videos to really just put up there to open yet, but we will in the future. So it's Patty and myself today.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Good to see y'all.
Hey, Kryptone. How we doing? We'll give it a couple minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's a slow start, yeah. What's going on, Omar, Robert?
Yeah, since you guys are early, if there's any specific topics you want to hear
Yeah,
about,
if you
throw
want to
them
ask
in
any
there and maybe
questions,
we
throw
can
'em
get
in.
into them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a few things, but you guys always give us a ton of questions that are good and lead us into different discussions. So
You're welcome, Anna. Hey, bud, you should put together a course on Flair and XRP, and I want to pay to make my 159,000 Flair work for me. Well, we have the Patreon group you could join.
And the website, too. So.
And the website. So those are two options where we do Zoom calls on a weekly basis, and that you could get more information beyond just the YouTube videos and the live streams. But I guess the first thing I want to start off talking about was that tweet that I posted with the SEC. So on that page there, that got a lot of attention. So I guess that really resonated with people. That's not the SEC saying that, but that was on the SEC website. So that was a firm, Bayard, that looked at XRP just like they look at BTC and Ethereum as a currency. And that's going to help bolster basically their fair defense. Right, Patty? That's what it's called, fair defense?
Yeah, fair notice.
Fair notice, that's it, fair notice. So I think that will really help. It's just another thing. I don't know if it's specifically going to help, but it's really going to really bolster it. So Militant Roots asks, any news on when Flair will be, I guess, distrode? I'm not sure what that means.
Distributed, maybe?
Distributed.
He may have been trying to say that. So,
distributed.
Yeah, so I mean, from what we know, it's probably going to be second half of June or early July, and that's just going to be dependent on how long the security audits are taking place. So it's not the same as running security audits on, some dApp being built on top of a blockchain. It's a brand new blockchain. So they have a lot of stuff that they got to go through and figure out. And it's also a very new way of doing things. So it could take longer than expected. And, I don't think they want to give an exact date and get people upset. I think it's going to be. So yeah, it's a time frame.
Well, I think it's going to be after June 11th, no matter what, because 6/11 is when you have to have all your claimed Spark by. So it's most likely. I always felt like it was going to be after that date, no matter what. So probably end of June, early July is a reasonable estimate, I think, at this point. All right. So Gareth has a good question here. He goes, if someone mints FXRP and earns X amount of Spark over a period of time, will they still retain that earned Spark if they convert their FXRP back to XRP down the line? Yes. So you will hold on to that Spark just like it's your Spark. So once you earn it from just minting FXRP, so you'll earn these every day, and then they'll be yours. So they'll be your wallet. They're basically just fresh, Spark that's coming out of the rewards pools, and then they're yours. So if you decide to do whatever you want with your FXRP after that, you're free to do.
Yeah, and think of these rewards pools, since they're being filled up with at the beginning the originally minted Spark. It's the rewards pools are getting allocated some of the originally minted 100 billion Spark. this is a way to distribute the original amount of Spark tokens to participants in the community. And that's what it is. Like that's what it's there for. Now, like, I've seen people ask on these rewards pools, like, what happens if it runs out after a few years? Well, so these are really meant to like, bootstrap value onto the network and give people a reason and, give them a stake in the network basically, so that they'll bring their value on in the beginning. So, 3 years down the line, we already see there's several projects building on top of Flair network. There's going to be so many products built out that like they may not need to incentivize people with just like a Spark rewards pool for minting F assets. There may be enough value already all across the network that, simply just minting an F asset in the future is going to be well worth your time.
Yes. So Dual Citizen asks, are we rich yet? Well, I think we're beyond getting, are we rich yet? We know we're going to be rich. It's how do you utilize that value to stay rich and continue to grow your wealth? We already know what's coming. So now that we kind of understand what's coming, now how do we best take advantage of those networks and tools and dApps being put in front of us to build that wealth even further, to take rich to really wealthy? That's really where we're getting. So that's...
Yeah. And also like, in today's environment in our financial markets, like what is actually rich being? I mean, a lot of things seem really risky with how the stock market's moving. And it's like, yeah, you have money on paper, but I don't know if we can think about being rich in the same way that we do today in fiat, because a lot of that is changing. And so, one of the best ways is to stay ahead of all this stuff and, look down the line and see what actually is going to be around. And it's, depending on your age, that's another thing too. Like for me, I'm very young. So like, even if I made like a decent chunk of money, let's say off XRP right now, it's like, how long is that going to last if I had it in fiat dollars and stuff like that, which is, what's great about Flair is that you have ways to utilize your crypto assets without actually turning them back into fiat.
Exactly. Good point. So Frank Severick asked, do you think we'll be able to rent our XRP to banks? Well, I'm not sure about regular banks, but you'll definitely be able to use those as collateral in different DeFi products to earn yield, which I would feel more secure using in a DeFi than necessarily a bank, which could go bankrupt and then your XRP is gone. I mean, as these DeFi protocols become more established and we have like crypto banks like Probity Vault and other products, and they become more robust, I think they'll be even eventually, more secure and a safer bet than loaning out to banks. But I do think traditional banks have a role to play as like the fiat gateways onto DeFi and onto the XRP ledger. But I don't know if necessarily the best yield is going to come from loaning your XRP to the banks. I think that's going to be for the masses, but the people who are in crypto now are going to utilize their FXRP and XRP in better ways to earn yield in a more decentralized setting than just loaning it to the bank and getting 5%. I think you could rack up a much higher yield if you use it in DeFi than looking back just to CeFi. But everyone's different.
I see. So I actually saw a good point that one of the things I kind of wanted to address tonight was it's from Beseck, and he said, maybe worth mentioning, I've seen every one of your videos. It's a great reference after being in this now, following to go back and rewatch the earlier content. And he says it adds up. And so this is one of the things, like when I first started looking into Flair, and I remember you got on board really early, like in just kind of like, getting ahead of this and learning about it. And then I started doing it last December, like a lot. And reading through the Flair blogs, they're written in more of a way for like just someone that doesn't know, like, the insane technicals of programming and blockchain to learn. It's, not as cut and dry as the white paper, which is helpful. And then also, yeah, it's like, it's going to take you probably, some time to start soaking this in, and you may not get it right now, but if you keep plugging at it, and we have, 2 months before this thing launches, you're going to have a good grasp of at least what's going on compared to many other people that are coming into the game late. Imagine if like, you're sitting there with XRP, but you don't look into Flair until it's 2 weeks before launch. You guys already see how much there is to learn about it, because it really is something new in the space with DeFi. So I would just keep plugging away at everything, and it'll eventually start clicking. And I would really, really focus. So I know everybody's like, going all in with like trying to do the Flair finance, like beta testing and competition. That's going to launch 1 month after the Flair network is live, but there's going to be opportunities to earn for the month leading up to that Flair finance launch. So like personally, just from a time point perspective, it's more important to understand Flair network from the beginning instead of like not focusing enough on it now, because then understanding how the base layer works is going to help you when you get into things like Flair finance or Trustline in the future. But you need to have like that good base of knowledge about how the whole system works and like what the point of it is. And I don't know, Mickey, if you have like any other good suggestions on how to learn this, because I see a lot of comments from people and it is tough to learn, and I agree, but it's taken, it just takes time.
Sorry, I got lost in the chat. What were you talking about? F asset minting? I'm sorry.
No, you're good, dude. I went on a little tear, but basically I was saying like the best way to learn this, and I believe like, so I know like a lot of people get super into the Flair finance stuff, but Flair network is launching a month before Flair finance does. So like understanding the base layer before you get to that point and not freaking out because you don't get how a liquidity pool works and all that stuff. Like that's even more complicated products built on top, but like you really want to understand what's going on like at the base, like layer one with Flair.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to start.
Yes. That's why I started out in the playlist with Flair network, and I didn't jump to like Flair finance and DeFi all over the place. I wanted everyone to really kind of understand Flair network at a base of what basically the Spark token is, what the FTSO is, and why the network is kind of different than Ethereum, but also why it's similar and how it has this connection to the XRP ledger and other networks. So I would start there on the playlist of Flair network to get the understanding of what Flair is at a base, and then you'll understand how all these dApps and DeFi protocols are built on top, how they interact with Flair network. So Walt Gardner asks, if you take out a CDP, which is a collateral deposition, can you simply pay it back with the collateral value, or do you make payments in a traditional manner and get all the collateral back only when the CDP is paid back in full? Well, typically, many of these CDPs don't have terms, so they will you could just pay it back when you like. But yes, as so say that collateral you put in is worth a certain amount, and now you borrowed against it. As that collateral goes up in value, you'll be able to pull it out because you won't need it there to manage the stable coin that was issued against it, right? So you could either borrow more against it, or you could pull out the collateral and use it to pay back. Now with Probity in the vault, I think there might be, so I'm not sure exactly on the details of when you borrow against. So you put your collateral in, and now you mint the RA stablecoin, and then you go and you loan that out to earn interest. I'm not sure if there's any fee that you actually have to pay. You're going to have to pay it back at some point to get that collateral out. But if you leave it there and it keeps going up in value, then you don't have to do anything really. And as it keeps going up in value, you pull out what you need.
Yeah, and on that point, I feel like the Probity and RE stablecoin act a little differently than, if you're just supplying that collateral so that you can mint a stablecoin for somebody else to use. Like if you just pulled out a CDP, like I guess the idea would be if you're trying to earn yield with that, is that you're going to get it at a low interest rate because you're providing collateral. So there's that safety net there. And, the application or a person that's loaning that out doesn't need to get as much interest back with there's collateral protecting it. But then you would go and you could loan that out to somebody that doesn't have the like collateral for a higher interest rate. And then basically the spread there is what you would make. Now with Probity, they're building in like several different things. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it may be, I think it's going to be more like how Mickey was explaining it. So there's different ways that CDPs can be used.
Yes, there's definitely many different ways. It looks like that's going to be more along the lines of the traditional bank side, like that aspect, but on DeFi, and it's going to have that fiat gateway. So interesting what ftso.eu posted, and I just got a glimpse at it before we came on, and they're talking about this handshake network, which is like these domains. So that trust line is going to be part of that, which is going to be interesting. So this is why I never went all crazy with the unstoppable domains with .crypto, because there's going to be many domain networks and systems like this. I'm happy for everyone who did with the unstoppable domains, but this is actually going to be built on Flair, which I think we have to really look into. And I know, Patty, we just talked about this before, but we're going to see how that's going to play into all this. There's another good question here. Mickey, in money, how much F assets will be minted in the first 90 days? Well, that's a great question. What do you think, Patty?
Yeah, so let's separate this into two different categories because it matters as far as how the rewards are going to be doled out. So there's going to be the FLTC rewards pool, which is just for people that mint FLTC. I honestly have no idea what that would possibly be at this point. But on the other side, we have the general F asset rewards pool. It's going to be for the F Doge, FXLM, and FXRP people. Now, what I think is going to happen is when the F asset system goes live, which is going to be, I don't know, probably a week or two after the actual launch of Flair, to let the Spark trading volatility die down. Since it is an airdrop, I'm assuming a lot of people are going to sell. Just what I've seen from a lot of different tokens launching for the first time. So they don't want the price like messing around too much before they let it go live, since it's a really one-time period in the network. And then as far as how much will be minted, I mean, I don't think we'll see more than 500 million within the first couple of weeks. I don't know. I could be way off, but I just think people are going to be hesitant. And I also think if the XRP price is higher, and I think the F asset that gets minted the most is going to be FXRP. But yeah, if the price is higher, I kind of think that people are going to be more worried about selling their XRP at that point, because now they're like, oh, I've waited all this time for XRP to go up in price. And it has, and it's like, oh, do I really want to like do this now? But if your XRP goes up in value before the Flair launch, you're going to be able to earn a lot more rewards, because the whole the way that they're spread out from the rewards pool is that you get a larger percentage if you have more value and F assets minted. So it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, I could see by the end of 90 days, maybe a few billion on there, I would think. I don't know if you've thought about numbers. I got to try and come up with a better formula, but I'm definitely spitballing right here.
Well, we got to kind of judge and see how the community is reacting and how the rest of the market is. Because as of right now, I mean, you got to look at who else is going to be minting the F assets that competes with FXRP. Right now, coming out of that rewards pool is FLTC and FXLM and F Doge, right? So those three other communities, how much dollar value are they going to plan on minting onto Flair? And then we could consider on how many from the community are really going to pay the 5% fee, because that is one thing that, you're going to have to pay. You're going to lose 5% of your XRP, but then you bring it over and you get these daily airdrops of Spark. Now, the Flair Time Series Oracle can calculate exactly your dollar value compared to everybody else's that are getting those general rewards daily. And we don't know the percentage yet. But I think that in the beginning, the first week or 2, 3 weeks that you could do that, you can easily double, triple, or further your stack. I really think so, because people are going to be hesitant because they don't understand it. Now, those who do understand it will take advantage of it because they know what's going on. Now, Frank Russell with the IRS considers airdrops taxable event. Well, they don't come with a 30% tax, Frank, because there's no value to the token. So it can't be a taxable event because there's no value. The token is worth zero monetary value when you receive it. So you can't get hit with a tax on something that's worth $0. Doesn't matter what the IOU's trading for. It doesn't matter whatever's trading for. I'm not a tax accountant here, but I do think that that's important, that people don't get hesitant of something because they think they're getting hit with a 30% tax bill when they're not getting hit with something like that. But that's not financial advice. I'm not a tax attorney, but be careful who you listen to on that, because you can't be taxed on something that's coming at zero. So I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, and I think I can touch on, so now that we're bringing up the creation fee of 5%. And so I put out my first video yesterday, and it was an example of the mechanics and value flow needed to mint F assets. And I did get a good amount of comments on the video of people thinking that 5% was pretty high. I highly encourage, if you guys haven't seen it, go back and look at least the second half of the video. I do a spreadsheet example of what your break even point is and opportunity cost for basically, you have to pay 5% of the value of your XRP. So, that's gonna matter as far as what your profits are. But if you understand how the F asset rewards are delivered out, there has to be like such a large amount of value in the early days for you to actually not make that much yield. And I'm talking about probably upwards of 10 billion, where the scenarios we're talking about may not play out as lucrative. So, if you think a ton of people are going to rush on and mint F assets, then that may seem like a high price. But if you see and you believe in, it really comes down to, do you believe in the Flair network long term? If you don't, then you may not see it as lucrative to be earning Spark in the beginning. Now, from my standpoint, it's bringing DeFi to a bunch of blockchains that have a lot of value, that don't have anything to do with that value currently, other than stick it and stake it with a CeFi provider. So they're opening the ground layer for so much to be built on it. So my whole game plan basically is to accumulate as much as I can in the early days. And if that means I need to pay a creation fee to mint my XRP as FXRP, then that's totally fine with me. It's only 5% of my total stack. Now, if you believe that XRP is going to go to $1 million, then maybe you don't want to do that. But it all kind of depends on what you expect the price of XRP, where that to go in the short term and all that stuff. So there's things you have to keep into account. And it's more of an opportunity cost, what you're missing out with that 5% fee. And then, okay, so on that, I see Dansky, when we pay the 5% fee to mint F assets, where does that fee go? So you're going to have programmers, firms that are good with that stuff, work in blockchain. They're going to run the agents. So basically the agents, they're just running code that operates smart contracts on their side of these transactions or positions. So when you pay that creation fee, it's going to be dispersed to the people that are providing the Spark collateral. So it's payment for their service.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the other side of that. So I do encourage everyone to watch Patty's videos. The first one he did yesterday was really good. So it really goes in depth about all the F asset creation. But just to, when you asked Dansky there about the other side of that 5%, for all those people that are earning this Spark, you're going to be able to put up your Spark as collateral to earn that 5% from those people minting, while simultaneously delegating your vote to earn more Spark. So that 5% that people are paying for the F assets, you could also be earning a percentage of that 5% by putting your collateral up, delegating to an agent. So, you're going to make that back, and you can make it back in other F assets once you're over there. So it's two-way street with that, I think. Right, Patty?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good way to describe it.
The creation fee is needed to make the network work, because basically, if you're not providing any kind of compensation to the people that are posting collateral, well, that's just dead value to them. Having your Spark sit there and act as collateral to make sure the system is safe, that's also another thing. This creation fee is paying for security for you to be able to redeem your XRP in the future. Because if there was no incentive for the agents to maintain those collateral positions or be paid out for it, then you wouldn't be able to know that you could get paid out in Spark in case there's a default or some kind of redemption failure. So that's also what it's there for. And you're basically paying for insurance in that scenario as well, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay, we got $1.52 on Live Coin Watch. Just wanted to throw that in there. That XRP Ortiz shared with us. Live Coin Watch, $1.52 for XRP right now.
What is Live Coin Watch?
It's like CoinMarketCap.
Oh, okay. It's 144 on Binance. That's what I've been looking at.
Live Coin Watch. I don't know. They got a little high price over there, XRP Ortiz. But still, that got me excited seeing it over $1.50. That is great to see.
if you look at the chart right now on the hourly, like it's basically been bouncing off 130 like at least 3 or 4 times.
we're
And my
gonna go.
limited knowledge of TA, that normally looks good.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, short term, I think the TA guys, like, this is really like paying attention time. But I do think as we go further with like the demand from FXRP and Spark and the utility, it's going to drive a different way that we look at, the valuation of these assets and where they're going in the future. So
yeah, and I know, like, so we hear about like some people like speculate about a price set. I think like what more realistically happened that would be similar to that is like a floor that almost gets set between like, utility or like, Spark being used as collateral in Spark's case, or like if you go to Ethereum, like Ethereum that's being staked, like that kind of gives you a floor because that supply is, not available for speculative trading and everything. And then it's also being bought up from demand. So it kind of just like gradually pushes it up. And then you have this layer of speculation on top where the price bounces around. So, yeah.
Okay, here's a good question from Walt Gardner. I don't understand why ETH, ADA, and DOT are focusing on proof of stake when they know it can't scale. These people aren't dumb. I'm wondering what their angle is. Well, I mean, up until recently, to get a decentralized network, it was very difficult. You had to do with like Ripple or Stellar did. And even that wasn't truly decentralized because you're counting on that UNL. Flair's kind of breakthrough was where it wasn't their breakthrough, but Avalanche Consensus on top was really the breakthrough here, which allowed them to spin up a decentralized network by bootstrapping these other blockchains to Flair network and overlapping the UNLs of Federated Byzantine Agreement. And there really was no other option besides proof of stake. I mean, I think that there can be innovations that free up some of the drawbacks that hold proof of stake back from scaling. But at the same time, I think Cardano's kind of has that idea. But with like Ethereum 2.0, they're just like ignoring that whole thing and just going forward. And Flair's going to be 3.0 by the time Ethereum 2.0 comes out. So that, somebody just said a great analogy that I heard yesterday. I think it was CJTV. He said that it's like ripping out the foundation of a house and then putting in a new foundation while the house is just sitting there and expecting to continue on like nothing happened. And that's going to be very difficult. Not saying it's impossible, but I think it's going to be difficult. And Flair, in the meantime, is just going to be moving along while all that's taking place. I got one more question for you here, Patty. Mm-hmm. As I understand it, delegate Spark to a signal provider to earn Spark. Additionally, mint F asset to gain more Spark to spin back into delegation.
Yeah, 100%. That's Marshall. The game. Mm-hmm. That's the game plan.
Yeah, you said it well.
Yeah, and you do that. And then also the other thing that you can sit there and do at the same time is provide your Spark as collateral. So you're going to be able to put up your Spark as collateral for other people to mint F assets. And like I was saying, there's going to be, people that are good with code working on the blockchains that run these agent smart contracts. So you'll be able to give, like, they'll handle, the hard work for you. And you just say, hey, here's my Spark that can be used as collateral. So you'll earn from that. And then you'll also earn from the FTSO, and then you'll earn from the F asset rewards. And then you just start compounding these and continually using them in the network. And this is happening on a daily basis. So, when you calculate yields and everything, the exponent is how often that's happening. So, the faster that you're compounding all your assets, the higher that exponent is. And that's where the exponential growth comes in. So that's why, like, getting in early, the faster you can start that process and earning more like Spark rewards basically is what will kickstart you down the line. So that's why we're really big on that. Really all you need to do is, like, once they have the security, everything, the network, then it's kind of full go, at least from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's a good question that I think I could answer that I've seen a lot. Ben Pianca asks, what is Garlinghouse motive for selling his XRP 40 million at a time now that we don't? So I think it's important to note that Garlinghouse wasn't a creator or founder. Like, he was given this XRP, for being CEO and doing all the work that he's done. So he's just selling it for take some profits. But it's not like he, had all this or was the founder of it and is just selling it all. I mean, I think it's kind of
I
like a bonus for him. What do you think, Patty?
So okay, I'll propose this question to you. So you're probably a little young. I don't Garlinghouse probably in his 40s, maybe early 50s at most.
Yeah, I'm younger than him.
And yeah, so but like you're getting close to that time period of your life. If somebody handed you hundreds of $1 million worth of XRP, would you sell some even knowing how much that you think XRP will be successful in the future? If you had that much, would you go ahead and just sell some and start de-risking? Because I would do that, and I'm 25. If I had hundreds of millions of dollars of XRP, I would sell some. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's so much. It's like, why would you keep it all there and risk, years and years of building this out and not being able to like recoup anything on your work? I mean, the guy's running a decacorn business, over 10 billion in value. He has all these investors, I bet you he works all the time. Like, the dude should be more than welcome to cash in on some of what he's done. He's worked hard. He was CEO at Yahoo. It's like, at some point he has a family, he's gotta enjoy life and also not have all his risk in one asset. So I think it's a little different, coming from his perspective. And it's like, people like, oh, well, what if XRP is worth $1,000? I mean, not everybody needs to be a multi-billionaire. Like, I don't think that's everybody's goal in life. Some people, that's what they like to do. And others are like, I've set myself up pretty well. Like, let's enjoy some of it. Let's make sure we're protected and all that stuff. So just think about it. If you were in his position, like, why would you not sell some if you have that much sitting in your pockets already? So yeah, that's my take on it. But
oh, here's an interesting comment. Channing Smithson says, wondering if Hugo and the team will introduce a stock, bond, or derivative before its official launch in June, like Tesla. Oh la la. Well, we know Sologenic is doing tokenized stocks, but we know that Hugo's history and experience is in derivatives and commodities trading and options. Yeah. So knowing their history, and also the head computer scientist at Flair and the CTO, they're all machine learning masters, and that's their experience. So I think that's going to play in here, machine learning and AI. I do think, what do you think on this, Patty? Where do you think that Flair, the team, could go, and other products like stocks, bonds, derivatives?
I mean, I think 100, we know from one of their original blogs, they talked about that they're already working with like Securitize and everything.
That's right.
And since the team is they've worked with derivatives, they're into complexity theory and all that. And derivatives are extremely, extremely complex instruments to manage. I mean, the formulas that go into them, there's so many variables that affects like the pricing and how things can move against you. But also, like, the reason they were made is they're outstanding hedging tools. So they're definitely 100% going to be looking to implement this stuff on Flair, especially with, it's built for DeFi. And that's possibly something that Flair Limited could do in the future. We'll have to see. They're definitely going to be involved with the network for sure, 100%.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Michael, for the super chats. Very much appreciated. Thank everyone and our great moderators that we have in this group. I always wanted to give them a shout out because you guys do an excellent job in here and helpful with answering all the questions. So let's move on now.
Oh yeah, could I touch on? Go ahead. So Robert, I saw you had a question earlier, and you just popped up again. So you were asking if you didn't have that much spark, if you'll be able to mint your F assets, and just know that like if you're the originator that's paying the creation fee, you don't put up any of the collateral. That's why you're paying the agents to do that. So you don't need to have any spark. So if you own an asset that's going to be integrated with Flair, all you have to do is pay that creation fee and bring it over. And now you have that asset, which is created on the Flair network. Like that asset's value is on the Flair network and you can use it, but you don't need Spark. So if you miss the airdrop, the other way to get into Spark is to buy these assets that are going to be integrated. other than just directly buying Spark, and then you can earn the Spark rewards pool and then start using Spark from there, like once you start getting those rewards.
All right, here's an interesting topic to discuss. So Beseck asks, if Flair is super successful, how does Hugo and the development team not become new public enemy number one? Well, here's how. They step back. That's how. They basically let this thing go and it becomes decentralized, and they're out of the mix, basically. They don't have any control over the network. It's decentralized. The validators are running. The foundation basically is the community, and they have nothing to do with that. So how can they be public enemy number one when they have nothing to do with it? All they did was build it, and now it's out there. So they're not going to be like Ripple. They're going to be the exact opposite, if anything. They're going to step away into the shadows, and they're not going to be out there promoting in public. The applications and other projects will, like you'll see Flair Finance, you'll see Trustline, you'll see Securitize, and other projects, the applications. But the actual creators, Hugo and them are probably going to take a step back and get out of the spotlight. So you can't be public enemy number one when you have no control of anything, and you're holding like less than, what is it, 20%?
It's 30. It's 30%, but 30%. Theirs is distributed in the same way as ours is, so they're not getting it all at once. Yeah, but also, so like, I mean, they're going to be participants in the network, so
yes.
They're going to act like we do on the network, basically. So think about things like you're going to delegate your Spark to the FTSO and stuff like that. That's what they'll be doing, and they're also going to help with bootstrapping. I would imagine they're going to help by putting up their Spark as collateral in the F asset system, so that there's enough Spark there to start minting F assets from the get go. So that's how I would expect them to act once this is all built out. But that's what the Flair Foundation is for, is to do the promoting for the network. And so all the Spark that they're being allocated out of the original 100 billion minted is basically to fund the Flair Foundation. So that Spark, that until they sell it to somebody that wants to use it in the network, is not allowed to be used in the network. So they can't provide Spark as collateral, and they can't use it in the FTSO or any of that stuff. But they'll be the ones that look into like proposals for code changes, and then saying, okay, here's the stress that could be put on the system by this. This is like our opinion on it, and then we would all vote. So they'll be going through stuff like that. And the white paper has a full process like laid out and how they can act. Also, as Spark holders, we could basically dissolve the Flair Foundation if we don't want it around anymore. And one of the interesting things I saw about that was they would have to use any non-Spark assets that they own to purchase Spark off the open market, and then all that Spark would be burned. So I just found that really interesting, but that's like a fail safe in case people don't like believe in the Flair Foundation anymore, or it's like seen as a bad thing and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, they set this up really well to be basically they're bootstrapping the decentralization here by connecting these other networks together, bringing XLM in, bringing the XRP ledger, bringing Litecoin, and even the proof of work blockchains like Bitcoin, bringing those in and linking those to the Flair network. The US, there's no way they could regulate decentralized networks. Like, these are things they can't really regulate. You could regulate the endpoints, like the on and off ramps. That's really, and now what are you going to regulate? KYC, AML. So how does the innovation solves for KYC, AML in DeFi? That's what PayString is for, and self-sovereign digital identities. This will allow us to use DeFi and these other protocols and come back out to the fiat on-ramps if we want to. But like I said in the video I did earlier, I think the third world is where a lot of this is going to start. And it's just going to come in, and it's going to be like just a tsunami of a new financial system coming in. Either you like it or not. So whatever great reset, whatever's happening, that's fine and great. But at the same time, there's this innovation wave coming, and it's called DeFi. And we've seen nothing yet.
Yeah, so basically we're at a point where we are now where people think that we need to have a great reset or a new Bretton Woods. But like, why do we want the same, organizations and type of people that put us in this situation now, where like it's been very clear for like at least 10 years that the fiat system is going to be in trouble at some point? And, it already had been in the past. And now we're expecting to like solve a problem that's happened many times in the same way when we have these great technologies that are moving past all the people that are trying to make those types of decisions. It's just like, I don't really know if I want to sit here and have a new Bretton Woods where like they try and basically control the entire economy of the entire world. Like, I don't think one person knows how that works. So that's what I love about these decentralized systems is you can have a bunch of different inputs. You have a bunch of different flexibility. They can pivot. They have a lot of capabilities. So it just seems like a much better foundation to build off, financial markets of the future. Because, you think about like the best companies today, like Amazon, think about how many times they pivoted. Like they were an online bookseller. Like that's what has value, is being fast and agile and being able to withstand like the worst of conditions. So building these resilient blockchains are going to be much better for us in the future, instead of trying to pigeonhole us into one way of thinking for another 50 years and until we run into the same problem again.
Exactly.
At least that's just my opinion,
said.
but
I agree with
we'll
that.
see how that goes.
That was well said. All right, so Jay Bross asks a great question here. Hey guys, thanks so much. Are the holders of Spark on an exchange that does not participate going to be losers of the 85% of the Y flare? So no, there's a solution to this. So this was a concern, a couple months back, but now it's going to just matter, since the Y flare snapshot is of your Spark tokens. It's going to be a month after the Flair network goes live. All you have to do is take the Spark that you have a month after, take it off that exchange, and put it to a Flair wallet or supporting exchange of Flair Finance, and they'll take a snapshot of that Spark. So you won't lose that 85%. It's whatever you have on the day of the snapshot is what they're going by. That's it. So that other 85% doesn't matter if it's on exchange, doesn't matter. So you just need to put it in the right place at the right time for the Flair Finance snapshot. And we'll be getting more information. So you'll be getting the full amount just like everybody else. So they're only going based off your 15%, basically. That's what they're going off of. And if you want to accumulate more now, you have a month to earn Spark from delegating your FTSO or from minting your F assets. The more Spark you build up within that month means you get more Y flare. So now it's actually better. Now we all have an opportunity. You could either buy it on the open market or earn it. So yeah, nobody's left out.
Yeah, and I see. So Rose and Ben, thank y'all so much. And I love what Ben said. Ben. So he said, "Thanks, DeFi professors, for helping us get all in at the basement level." I love that. It's like, people sit around and they're like, "Oh man, I wish I could have got in at Bitcoin at a few dollars or XRP when it was sub a penny, 4 years ago, or what is it now?" So yeah, it's like, if you believe, if it's something that you've researched enough and you feel strongly about it, like this is an opportunity to get into a blockchain that has, really good potential at a basement level. And a lot of us were lucky enough to have XRP at the time. And, we basically been given like Spark for free at this point, which I know people say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but, it feels like it in this case. So it is exciting to be on the ground floor. And the nice thing is we're going to be able to direct this in the direction we want in the future. Like we're going to have an input and a say what's happening. I think that's what I'm most excited about. It's like, here's this completely new thing that, society has never had before. And here we are as people that are going to start using it at the beginning, and, we can help direct it. We at least get a vote, So I think that's very exciting part. But yeah, I love that comment.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So now there's some things about Doge. So I just see a back and forth here about Doge and its utility. So Doge is going to have just the same type of utility. It's going to be the same asset as XRP, as XLM, as Litecoin on the Flair network. They're all going to have the same capabilities on Flair. So their native blockchains might have issues, might have no use case, might have proof of work. But once they're on Flair, they're all the same. They all get these superpowers. You all get Ethereum virtual smart contracts. You get this yield dropped to you on a daily basis in Spark. So it kind of levels the playing field. Granted, there is one unique feature with XRP. Since there's a two-way bridge to the XRP ledger, assets can move to the XRP ledger. And unlike other blockchains, it actually has a built-in decentralized exchange with it and fiat off-ramps. So there would be reason to bring certain F assets back to the XRP ledger. But otherwise, all the others are pretty much, they're even when they're on the Flair network. So I think that, Doge has a big community. We shouldn't pick on them. They're going to have the same utility that FXRP is going to have.
I mean, joke or not, they have one of the, most well-known figures in the world constantly tweeting about it. And, we see kind of with GameStop and stuff like that there's almost this like social investing at this point online. Like, think about how all of us have connected over the years, like the whole dynamics of how finance are changing as we, improve on technology, and then how people can communicate. So, if people want to say that Doge has value and they like it, I mean, it's a blockchain. Like, somebody built that out. It's pretty similar to Bitcoin. So I wouldn't say that it's, trash or anything. I know people will argue that, but to me, it has value. People have decided it has value, and now it even has more because it's basically like a gateway to get onto the Flair network with assets that you already own. So, I think it's important. It gets used in gaming. So, I think there's a use for it. And like you said, it's going to level the playing field of all this value on the Flair network because it's all going to be able to use in the same way.
Okay, so thank you, Delibre. Philippe, would be interesting to try to evaluate Spark with crypto calculator. Great job, guys. Thank you. Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see the different variables of how that inflation mechanism actually drives demand instead of hurting the actual ecosystem. So, for example, let's take Ethereum, which has roughly around that inflation rate of 10%, right? Now, all those inflation rate is going to pay those miners for the consensus of the network. So instead of that inflation going to miners or validators, it's going to anybody who basically delegates their vote to the signal providers for providing these price feeds. So we all have an opportunity to earn the inflation rewards instead of, like proof of work, just the miners get those rewards. So how does this change, or the validators and proof of stake, how does this change the valuation of an asset that anyone could earn the yield of from the network? So I do think it will have an actually an impact there.
Yeah. And
anything
then
else you saw?
Yeah, so I saw from Ace Boogie, actually love that name. And so he said, so tell me, did any other company went against the SEC win the case, or we have a high chance of being the first? Well, so this depends on who you ask. So, do you consider a $5 million fine and a slap on the wrist to be winning the case for the SEC? Because I think a lot of people would consider that as a win, and I think the SEC would as well. So there's a very good chance that like XRP is good to go after this, and it's not a security, and Ripple still gets some fines. Those are two different parts of the case, is like whether XRP is a security going forward or was over the past 5 years and all that. And then Ripple maybe not selling XRP in the ways that, the SEC or some other agency would want to. So they could still be getting hit with a fine, and the SEC would probably count that as a win in their book, in their statistics that are like, 95% of their cases don't go to court. And also these are not, what do they call them? Like capital crimes. It's I forget, civil maybe. And so like nobody's going to jail from the SEC. It's kind of different than, a normal court case if you rob someone or something like that. So it kind of depends on what you say by win. But, as far as like cryptos that have been gone after, I don't think any of them have, no, they've been fine. They've been deemed that they're good to go from this point forward. So I think, it's looking good.
Well,
so we'll have to see what happens this week.
I think like Block One, who kind of got hit with the fine. I mean, I don't see EOS trading on Coinbase. I don't see Kin trading on Coinbase. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I think they, did they really win? I mean, I think that XRP or Ripple, what they want to win is they want basically the SEC to come out and say, hey, this is not a digital security, and leave us alone with the escrow. We're going to do as we please, and we're not going to disclose with what you want us to disclose. So, tough luck. and that's it. That's what I would consider a resounding win, and I think that's coming. I mean, with John Dean intervening now into the case as the community, and Brad and Chris's charges to be dropped soon, I think we're heading in that direction. But, you know, into Patty's point of a little fine and a slap on the wrist, you know, they basically have to drop the whole thing. Where Block One and Kin, their holdings, the companies behind them, they have to do these disclosures now with the SEC about their holdings. Ripple obviously has no intentions of doing any type of disclosures with the SEC. They want nothing to do with that. And they shouldn't, because they have certain proprietary things that they're doing with the escrow releases. They're not just releasing this out and they're sitting at the desk and saying, hey, should we sell $200 million to him today or sell $100 million? No, this stuff's all automated. Look at the way Flair is distributing their rewards. It's algorithmically distributed based on certain conditions in the network from governance. It's the same way that the escrow is distributed out with the XRP. It's no different. It's just based on different conditions for RippleNet and a different network based on liquidity. But the concepts are the same. So that's why I always not a believer in the handing over the escrow and not a believer in the burning the escrow. It's the most advantageous component of, you know, what they could do. It's incentives and game theory. That's what these networks are all about. And crypto economics.
Yeah. And it's we're going to see it on full display with Flair. So like, let's say things go well with Flair over the first 6 months, and the way that they're distributing the token really incentivizes value to come on the network in participation. I mean, that's just a perfect case for things that, you know, Ripple could possibly do with the escrow in the future. So this is kind of like what we're talking about with what's going on with Flair and the distribution of that token. When Mickey talks about the escrow stuff with XRP, you know, it's incentivized for certain behaviors to have value add to the network. And Mickey, if you want to address this one, Michael said he saw a good topic in the chat, and he said adoption will be biggest issue Flair will face. I think that's a good point, and there needs to be phone apps for F assets.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you see that in the future, and you know if it's going to be here at launch and all that.
So phone apps, I think that's where I think we're going to see like what Trustline is kind of building is going to allow you to basically be some sort of fiat on ramp, off ramp. Is that what he was kind of asking? Like the apps? I think they're going to need to be on your phone, but at the same time, certain things like with Flair Finance, it's going to be much easier to do on like a browser with a Web3 extension, like with MetaMask or something that's Flair version, to be able to really optimize the usability. Some things I think you could do on a phone, but when you're really getting close to these dApps and you're doing, you know, you're moving a lot of different money around to different pools, it's really best to do it on a browser-based, a laptop or an actual, you know, desktop computer. But I think we need mobile for the on-ramp and off-ramp of fiat, for the easy things. But I think browsers play a role. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get to the point where they'll have applications on your phone that can do a lot of this stuff. Now, whether that's at launch or not, you know, that's up in the air. But let's say like it's not the simplest thing in the world to do at launch. If you're able to like, you know, if you know enough going in and you can figure it out, that just means there's going to be less people participating and more for you to earn for people that aren't, you know, aren't willing or maybe not savvy enough to figure it out. But I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. Like if you know how to use your phone and send money, or you've sent, you know, XRP over the blockchain or XLM or whatever, I don't think it's going to be anything that more difficult to get in these base applications on Flair, like delegating to the FTSO or, you know, minting F assets and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. I think over time, these things are going to get better and better to use. It's just a question of if it happens right at launch with Flair or not. So yeah, TBD. We'll have to see when these wallets come out. So
yeah, so Ali G asked, how do we practice minting and delegating? Well, we can't yet because we don't have that Flair network testnet up yet or any wallets to see. So to be determined. And then we got another question. Genzler supposedly sworn in on the 19th. Not sure if it's an entire term or just the remainder of Clayton's until 2021. I believe it's a whole new term that he gets sworn in for. So Clayton resigned, and yes, I think his would have been up in June 2021. But I think it's a whole new term, Patty, right? I think so.
Yeah, no, I think it's like to finish out this one and then it'll be 5 years from then. And also, I saw somebody posted on YouTube that Genzler may be getting confirmed today. I need to check. I saw they were doing some voting, but it may have been for this other person that was in like not like the same position, but something similar. So it may be happening soon. It's really just like if Congress forces the vote through quickly or not. So, I mean, we all know how that goes.
All right, let's do a last question before we wrap it up. So
Cool.
John Doe asks, so is this going to work with F assets and the ETH network? So first, ETH network is totally separate from Flair. Just the test nets right now are using the Ethereum test nets. But Flair is going to have its own version of like either MetaMask, and it will have its own FLR20 tokens. So you got to think of Spark like Ethereum, but on Flair. So it's its own network. It's not a side chain. It's not a layer 2. It's its own blockchain. And they'll have their own tokens. So they won't be, but it will use something like MetaMask. It's going to have to, but just a Flair version of it. And I think there'll be other surprises that are coming from Flair that will be kind of an upgrade, but we don't know exactly yet. And yes, Toho Labs is building a Flair app that will work with hardware wallets. So your ledgers, your Decent wallets, your EliPal, and others, you'll be able to connect to the Flair network with those. So you don't have to worry there. You don't need to hand in your ledger or anything like that. So that's hopefully something that puts everyone's mind at ease, that you'll still be able to keep your ledgers and hardware wallets. And they'll connect to these Web3 based apps, which I think we'll see, like MetaMask, which allows you to sign the transactions without the private keys. So it really makes it more convenient, is what it does. All right. I think we're going to leave on that note. Patty.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right. Great stream. Thank you, moderators. Thank you for the super chats, everyone. Really appreciate it. And XRP Ortiz XDC. I do own a little, only a little, but XDC is something I would keep a lookout for. But thank you, everyone.
Yep. Take care, guys. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you, Patty.